Welcome to another episode of Exploring the Vintage NFT Space with ZeroG. Today, I'm excited to have with me Hunter Beast, who is the one of the developers of BIP360, which is a proposal to enable quantum resistant signatures schemes within Bitcoin. So, thanks for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to talking to you today. I've been following the subject since with in relation to cryptocurrency since 2018, and this has been something that I feel has been really underappreciated as a risk for the entire scene and for Bitcoin. So yeah, I was really looking forward to having a discussion with you. So thanks for taking the time out to chat with me today.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah, so before we jump into it, would you like to kind of tell us how you first discovered um, cryptocurrency and what made you actually make the leap to make your first purchase?
Huh. Well, I had a friend who kind of dragged me into it. I had a couple friends actually,
Hmm.
and they uh, uh, they were fun, uh, and just kind of convinced me to like investigate it more. And I bought my first Bitcoin on Coinbase back in 2017
Hmm.
for like $1,000, and uh, I held it for all of 2 hours, and then I sold it because it was too volatile.
Oh wow. Yeah, well, definitely volatility has been the name of the game. It's been fascinating to watch, especially man, even just the last few years, it's been wild. This whipsawed from, I think, just in the span of 3 years, from what it hit like 20 or 30, and now in it the
Yeah, it's quite the roller coaster. And also, I will say that I faded Bitcoin quite a bit early on, just because I have a background in databases, and
yeah.
so I just considered Bitcoin a very inefficient database,
Yeah.
and I especially didn't understand money.
Hmm.
For a long time, I was a socialist, and so I just didn't like understand why sound money was important,
Okay.
and why, like, money is important for society to function, even, and like
Hmm.
later I'd come to understand that capitalism isn't bad. Capitalism, in fact, is the voluntary exchange of goods and services. So it's
Yeah.
it's actually like a really good thing. And so it's a fantastic foundation for a civilization to be built upon. And the only problem is that we have this like kind of broken money that we're all using, and hopefully we can move towards something better.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's one of the things that I'm passionate about cryptocurrency is offering humanity the ability to opt out of this. Like this isn't just broken, it's corrupt. These like this debt-based fractional reserve central private central bank money system where they're essentially extracting the real wealth out of normal citizens throughout the world at this point.
Yeah, they
So
they like I forget what inflation rate I was calculating this from, but I think it was like 2 or 4%, and it was like it's like a week or two of your earnings is just being lost to inflation, and
yeah,
this is like the good inflation, the expected inflation, the
yeah,
target inflation.
uh-huh.
And like, is ordinary people supposed to just like be able to ask for 2 to 4% raises, or are they supposed to like work 2 to 4% harder every year? Like it's such nonsense.
Yeah, and what's pernicious too that people forget is that compounds, right? So if you had money just set aside in a lockbox or something, you're losing 2% compounding. So in what is it, something like 10 years, you'd lose half the value, something like that, right? Because
Yeah,
of
10 or 20. Yeah,
yeah.
somewhere between there. Yeah. And it's um, it's even worse when you have to think about like how like just the effects in society that has it's like this like race to the bottom, and all technological improvements just seem to like not seem to have an effect or don't seem to be priced in, because when they improve something they just extract more.
Right.
It's not. I'm a little black pilled on the AI revolution. Actually, I'm not sure it's going to benefit as many people as people think. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. It's just like for AI development is going to need to outpace inflation, which we'll see if that's possible. But
I
you
kind of
know,
think that we're on the verge, like I think AI has a future, but I think we may be close to having like this bubble pop, just because I don't know, just the tremendous amount of money that's been invested and how everything is like just the stock market in the US is very toppy. But I just
well, I remember back when we called Bitcoin a bubble, so
yeah,
I'm still not convinced it's a bubble. Like, I mean, it seems like this like train that just keeps
yeah.
going. Like, I mean, you see, I'm in Austin right now, and I see these Waymos going around all the time, no drivers in them, and uh, Elon's. We're on like the cusp of Elon rolling out his own thing, so we're gonna have like basically like two fully automated like driverless products here, and what's interesting is that I've been like kind of like purposely writing Lyft here
Uh-huh.
because like I'm just curious about like people who are contending
Yeah.
with this automation, and all the rides from like people are like $5, whereas like in Denver it'd
Mhm.
probably be more like 10 or 20. And maybe it's just because like Denver's more spread out, and maybe I don't know, but like I think there's the AI competition is putting market pressure on the system,
Mhm.
and it is probably pricing people out or giving people lower earnings. So um, that's something just I'm starting to become a little painfully aware of.
Interesting. I guess one other thing that just occurred to me just to mention, are you familiar with shadow stats?
Yeah, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Bitcoiner, I am not a stranger to monetary conspiracy theories, and I don't mean to discount it as a conspiracy theory. When I say conspiracy theory, like a lot of them turn out to be right, and so
Oh, I'm referring to shadow stats that run by John Williams. So
yeah,
it's
I'm familiar with
okay.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just like 10 or 20% inflation year over year, like is
Well,
kind of
it's
what he's saying.
well, I think the last year or two it was around 8%, 6 to 8%. I'd have to pull up the chart. But
But it's much higher than the reported figures, and I definitely agree with that. I mean,
it's
like even just from an incentive standpoint, it stands to reason that the fox is guarding the hen house.
well, the deal is the reason why it's not, I don't think it's very controversial how he's measuring it is he's using the
The
original
original numbers,
metrics
yeah,
to that
from
they
the
originally
80s or
were.
70s, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, again, they're just like the official numbers. They like, they established that these new metrics um just to underrepresent inflation to cheat out like beneficiaries of social services like social
Right.
security,
They
right?
trade out different things in the basket of goods that they use to
Yeah, yeah,
calculate CPI, the
yeah.
Consumer Price Index. Yeah, I get that. And yeah, I mean, it's very possible that like we're in inflation in that level, and that's why I encourage people to look into what's called the Tanzi effect. Are you familiar with the Tanzi effect?
No.
It's TANZI. It's basically the idea that uh, when you're in an inflationary economy, it's to your advantage to delay paying taxes as long as possible.
Okay. Yeah, that does make sense, right? Because, with in an inflationary environment, you if you can the value aspect of the money is higher first, right? So the longer you delay payment, the less the repayment is worth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Just something to consider.
Yeah, well, no, I did. That's interesting about the Waymo impact there. I hadn't even I haven't been exposed to that, so I didn't. But that makes sense that that would um, uh, like start to depress. Just
Yeah, it's interesting
Mhm.
because it's like basically a free market.
Yeah.
And it also is like directly pitting people against machines.
Yeah,
And
that's a good way to put it.
yeah, and also the other thing I saw like when I first got here was like a little like delivery robot just
Mhm.
crossing the street, like this little thing, like it looked like almost like a cooler on wheels. And it just we're if you want to see a little taste of the future, come to Austin. It's kind of
Okay.
interesting.
It sounds
Yeah.
like we're already living in the dystopian cyberpunk future.
Oh, I think it could get worse. Like for example, I remember standing on a balcony and talking with some friends, and I realized it was very quiet. And then I realized, oh no, we're probably going to see VTOLs come to be a thing in the near future. Like within the next 5 years, we're probably going to see VTOLs come and just add a bunch of noise pollution
Mhm.
and be zipping around all over the horizon, destroying the view. Maybe not destroying, but like being very distracting when you want to appreciate a view. And it's going to be that we're marching like head you just really like almost on a train. We're like on this train of tech that is like heading into the future. That it's you're either on the train or you're not. I'm sort of struggling to stay on it. I definitely am kind of I would say that I'm sympathetic to the perspective of both sides, like the
Mhm.
the EAC people who are like, or like we need to accelerate. I'm not sure I want to accelerate anything, but I get the idea. It's just that like acceleration, in particular, is like it just leads to giving people less time to adjust. And that's why I'm not a fan of accelerating Bitcoin adoption either. I'm like, this needs time. It needs to happen organically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I feel the same way. I mean, I'm pretty involved in the tech space and I still feel like it's impossible to really keep abreast of everything that's going on even now. So yeah, uh kind of like you, I'm not like a I'm not trying to, or my perspective isn't that we should like start cracking down or limiting stuff. I'm just like, it's just hard as a normal person to keep up. And uh, kind of like you're saying, I'm a little bit unsure about even my own future, with all this stuff coming with the AI advancements and everything. So, it's it's
Yeah,
interesting times.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, that kind of segues um, into, you know, one of the reasons I've been following this topic for a while, this quantum computing, is that there seems to be, at least to me, a huge disconnect between um, people in some of these other fields and people that are actually researchers or involved in quantum computing. I know since uh, in the cryptocurrency space, for years, like the mantra was that this is like 20 or 40 years out. We don't need to worry about that now. And what I've been watching is since I started following and we already have the J curve in process, right? That we've seen in other aspects of human technological and revolutions and knowledge industries, right? Where it started in 2018-ish. We had like one physical qubit, and now we're already at like I want to say like now it's like around 3 or 4,000, but we have like I mean at least a half dozen proposals for ways to scale quantum computers, and including developing chips that don't even require, these super cool um, chips, and even being able to use silicon as a mechanism. So there's a tremendous amount of research and development being done, also being funded by um, the world's largest governments and the world's largest megacorps. So I think it's kind of uh, I wouldn't say foolish, but I think I don't know. I think it may be a little bit naive to expect that we're not going to continue to see at least at the same level of advancement that we have for the last 7 years, which is fast. So, um,
Yeah, some might consider it fast. I mean, some might also consider it slow.
yeah.
Like, I mean, if we were looking at computation from the lens of somebody who was like from the greatest generation back in World War II, like they would have seen the ENIAC maybe or heard of the ENIAC, and then like we would have had it would have taken us another 10 years to develop the transistor on Shockley, right? And then after that, it would take another 10 years to like come up with mainframe computers, like the IBM System 360. And so these things take time, and especially early on, it's like the, but then things to kind of tend to compound and snowball once they do, and it starts to surprise people. And like we've seen this happen time and time again, and we're just like on the cusp of it now, and like those paying attention will uh be like even those people paying attention will probably be surprised as well. The I'm actually surprised to hear that there are quantum computers that don't require superconducting capabilities. That's news to me because, like, from what I understand, even photonic computers still need like super chilled detectors. And
If I'm correct, the one I'm thinking of was, I think it was from Intel, where they were proposing using silicon for the qubits, and I don't think that those required the basically being super cooled.
oh well, superconducting I'm pretty sure it takes place already on silicon.
Okay.
And PsiQuantum, for example, recently taped out some superconducting chips with Global Foundries, who is a
Okay.
silicon wafer manufacturer. And then also um, Microsoft has been working on the Majorana fermion approach, like the topological qubits,
Yeah.
and those use kind of like a quasi particle, and um, but they still make use of uh, bosons and condensates and Cooper pairs. So it does require being
Okay.
very cold.
That may just be a mistake on my part, because that's I may have just assumed that when I was reading that Intel. Again, I didn't read the like go super into the weeds. I read like a couple page press release or something on that, because I'm not.
That
I,
said, I'm not discounting the fact
yeah.
that like we might someday see
Mhm.
like quantum computers that don't need to be super chilled. I mean, Sir Roger Penrose had this theory that our brains have a quantum component to them,
Yeah,
uh,
the
and
microtubules.
microtubules exactly, and you call that orchestrated objective reductance theory, and that was uh, like kind of mind blowing to me. Big if true, but. Uh, yeah, it's the kind of thing where like you're like this makes a lot of sense if it's true, because like one thing that Google announced, like mentioned in their Willow announcement back in December, was they mentioned a couple things. They were like this is suspiciously thermodynamically efficient to the point where like we don't think that it's even uh, like performing computation in parallel within our own universe, but perhaps the
Yeah,
parallelism is taking place through parallel universes.
I read that. It's like mind
And
blowing, isn't it?
yeah, so it makes me think like we don't even know how these things work. And there's also like the D-Wave guy like calling his computer, I think he called it the demon or something. And like it just makes me think like we don't know if these aren't demonic hell portals that we're building.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the development of early radio back at the turn of the 20th century, where they had all of these, they didn't understand, they didn't have a efficient way to do amplification. So you saw these really crude methods for
Like
doing amp.
thyristors.
Yeah, until they developed the triode, um,
Oh
the
yeah.
the audion.
Yeah.
Before that, everything else was like super crude and inefficient, and that would like, um,
Yeah, because they needed a way to isolate the noise, and in a way, it needed to be like active. It needed to be almost like dynamic and smart. So they almost needed like a form of uh, primitive computing, like a transistor or a triode, to isolate signal from noise.
yeah, I mean, and that's what was like, that's what was brilliant about the triode is that it was again with that technology you had the ability to selectively amplify a signal, which before then was just you know, I don't know, it was really crude. So, but yeah, it reminds me of that kind of period for that audio technology where they were basically fumbling in the dark and didn't really have um like they didn't even really conceive of how to do that in an efficient manner until it was kind of I was reading about it. It's kind of like a mistake or kind of by accident how DeForest developed that audio on the first triode. So, you know, anyways, interesting.
Yeah, and like, have you looked into like the Yagi antenna?
Oh yeah, I know what Yagi antennas are, but I'm not familiar with like the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah, well, like it's technology that I think was came up in 1920s Japan, and it was just like a paper that was published
Mhm.
from a Japanese university, and the Allies somehow got their hands on that paper and were able to develop radar using it. But
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with
uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, this it's interesting because like you have to wonder exactly how well they understood the principles of radio even back then,
Hmm.
and also it makes me wonder. It like bringing it back to quantum, like there's the idea that quantum entanglement could potentially lead to different like forms of communication, or at least certainly more secure forms of communication. And uh, sorry, I'm trying to suppress a sneeze. So uh, yes, so the thing that makes me like interested in that is I kind of think we might need quantum computers or decent quantum computers to affect quantum communication, and it depends how far we're able to get with that. But like ideally, we have a form of communication that doesn't even require radio waves to accomplish that kind of communication to begin with, which
Hmm.
could be pretty groundbreaking because then you can have perfect communication just about anywhere on Earth, and nearby, and uh, that would not only like revolutionize how we communicate, but also um, like basically all uh, spacecraft uh, like all these like radio based satellites, maybe even using laser links, they're kind of just obsoleted. And
Yeah.
we also we'd probably within about 10 years stop putting radio waves out into the universe, which makes me think that maybe SETI might be a false errand.
I didn't,
Because like
I never
after a
even thought
certain
about
level of
that.
development, like maybe like we develop the technology to communicate using quantum computers, and then we don't we 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 don't need radio anymore, and then we just stop putting signals out there, and then just after a certain level of development, it's almost like a solution to the Fermi paradox.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that, but that makes sense that essentially, like radio is very like energy wise is, you know, not super efficient to like have to broadcast out in all directions in order to receive a signal somewhere else. So that would make sense to be able to again tap into the quantum realm and in order to do direct communication would be kind of a a milestone that any civilization would make, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then also eventually we're gonna, like with Bitcoin, we have this like technology to incentivize the production of more energy than we need.
Mhm.
And it basically also gives us a monetary incentive to seek out stranded energy.
Mhm.
And where is most stranded energy in our solar system? It's the sun.
Mhm.
And so we should start work on a Dyson swarm, like, as soon as we can, in my opinion. It's very difficult to get things near the sun too, because like you have to break so much just to get in like near that gravity well. It's kind of interesting. A lot of these like solar probes, they take a ton of delta V to just to get there. They have to do a bunch of uh, what do they call them? Like when they swing by uh, gravity assist, maneuvers. And
Yeah.
so they so, but like if we do start to cover portions of the sun that are uh, uh, like to capture energy, then maybe a a portion of the process could result in radiation, like thermal radiation from like the other side of the uh, surface that we're constructing that would potentially entangle every photon leaving the surface. At which point, if we can entangle every photon leaving our sun, then we would be able to maybe potentially communicate uh, with far off civilizations in that manner, just by broadcasting entangled photons
Interesting. Jeez.
from our star.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely wild. I'm like I said I try and stay optimistic about technology because there's so many cool applications. So like that's why I try not to get like too black pilled about the AI stuff. Um, you know, it
Yeah, no. This is kind of what we need. It's true. Yeah, like it's an amazing time to be living through. It's just also there's a very much a human component, and like there's a time when like blacksmiths like had to find new jobs.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I like yeah, I'm really yeah, that's what one of the reasons I thought like preserving Bitcoin was like again really important and why some of this work needed to happen. So I guess let's like why don't you tell me about your background in cryptography and what got you interested?
Yeah, so in 2018, I started with a Web3 startup, and we got into Rust, and Rust is a very powerful language, and there's a lot of tools available to you in Rust, especially cryptography tools. And like I even learned how to there's an Ethereum improvement proposal. It's the EIP 1193, which is the Web3 provider EIP, and it's essentially like it's spec that uh, like basically lets you access um, uh, what extensions like MetaMask might inject into the browser window, and um, the uh, the trick that I kind of got into was I liked building with Rust in from a web perspective.
Hmm.
It was very early at the time, like 2018, 2019, 2020, where actually I started getting more into it in 2021, where like you could like I was just kind of following the progress of it and getting more success with it over time as the Rust WASM tools matured, and I eventually was able to build Rust native or well web interfaces built in Rust that could communicate with Web3 providers, and that was a lot that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that, but um, the because I'm a bit of a Rust maxi, I really like the language a lot.
Well, that's
But
really fascinating to hear because I'm not a programmer myself, but I remember reading about Rust and I've like at a at multiple arms lengths, but I've kind of roughly followed Rust progress where now it's even in the Linux kernel, and I think
mhm.
I really think that it makes a lot of sense to refactor a lot of our existing code in Rust. I know a lot of maximalists for like C or C++, like they are, like the non-memory safe languages, like it's still the like what is it, the number one or in the top 10 of
Yeah,
common vulnerabilities is these uh
memory
memory
safety
safety stuff.
vulnerabilities. Yeah.
I mean, so like people like they keep crying and saying, "Oh, well, we can do C like in a safe manner," but it hasn't worked for 30 years. So like, why don't we move to something? And again, Rust is super fast too. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, well, it's super fast to run, but it takes a lot of power to compile.
mhm.
And there's kind of a joke amongst Rust developers that we're kind of like uh, uh, our process monitor it maxes out so that their process monitors get to like not do much processing at all. Uh, and
So it
uh,
takes pretty beefy rigs to compile this stuff.
Yeah, my machine at home has 16 cores, 32 threads,
Okay.
and it's also like it really makes me yearn for like a Threadripper or an Epic system
Yeah.
because like I would love to have more cores and more modern cores too. Mine's a 5950X but an AMD part Ryzen
That's
9,
what I'm running
but
too.
are you running the same part?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it was a really good like uh uh era of the system. I think that's Zen 3, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
You just
that
got a
was a
great run
really
out of that out of the platform.
without a doubt. And like that said, they've also made a bunch of IPC improvements since then. Cache has just gone through the roof. I'm really looking forward to like Zen 6,
Yeah.
seeing how that shakes out. Like then I'd have like doubled my Zen at that point, so I'll need to upgrade probably by then. And I think they'll probably be introducing more cores at the consumer level,
Yeah.
which could be pretty powerful and still worthwhile investigating from like a development machine perspective. But yeah, like Rust is really great. I like it a lot also now from like a vibe coding perspective because like uh in like if you're using Cursor, have you used Cursor?
I played with it. Yeah. Hmm.
So like Cursor's super powerful, especially if you give it like full agent mode over like Sonnet 3.7 and just like give it like your code base, and you talk to it and you just like, hey, I'd like this to do this now. And I could absolutely build the feature myself, but it just would take longer and um, much longer. And it also is really good for debugging. Like you can ask like, why is this happening? And it'll kind of help you figure things out. And I really at this point feel more like a manager or supervisor, or like a senior developer uh, uh, pair coding at any
Mhm.
moment's notice. Like at any instant, I'm able to pull up my junior and like pair with him, and uh that's super super powerful. And also it's very fast at typing, so yeah, it's kind of like uh, very much like this thing that superpowers any senior dev's capabilities. And junior devs, I'm sure probably feel the same way, probably in a different perspective though. But like AI is really great, and one of the reasons why Rust is really great for AI is because it can validate the solution in a much more effective way. Uh, and So you can kind of see like Sonnet arguing with itself. Oh, there's some Clippy errors. This, things like that, and it'll like smooth out your code base over time. It's really fun. And like I mean, you can do this in just about any language: C, Python, TypeScript, but like actually, Python's pretty terrible because it does not have good type safety. But the there's a ton of examples of how to write it, which AI excels at. But Rust, on the other hand, like it gives you like so much more power to write tests, and like tests like even in the same file, and has a standardized format for tests. And um, it
Right.
it then validates all sorts of different logic that you don't even need to write tests for, just through language facilities within itself. And even the macro language is Turing complete. So like if you want even more runtime, or I mean compile time, like type correctness, you can actually do some pretty interesting things with macros as well.
Well, I've used, so I'm not a pro for programming like you are. I've picked apart a couple of projects in the last year and a half, 2 years. I was playing with some of the AI tools, and it's been really fascinating at how much more powerful and how much better they are to for an assistant, even for someone like me now. Where one of the benefits for, again, for someone who's not a professional programmer, when I'm trying to, again, like pick up an existing project and make improvements or whatnot, is that like I'm not really, for example, I'm not really familiar with all the common libraries to do like get some things done, and that'll like it can automatically just like tell you, hey,
Yeah.
these are the common libraries that are used to achieve what you're after, so I don't have to, you know, reinvent the wheel, that type of thing.
Yeah, it helps with discoverability,
Mhm.
for sure. Like, or like you can describe a problem to it, and maybe there's even something in the standard library you missed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's fascinating. It again, it really made, even for someone like myself, I'm able to tackle a lot of stuff that I wouldn't say that I wouldn't be able to, but I would have to actually sit down and formally learn the particular language, and it would take a much longer time to again find some of these resources. It's just it's really.
Yeah, what's funny is like I'm sure for contractors AI is really great because you can just say yes to more work.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of more fearless, and so and that drives economic activity, and it provides a lot of value to the world, and it's a huge technological improvement. And that's how value is created, right? Like how
Yeah.
more the economy is juiced by this AI tech, and I think we're only just starting to scratch the surface and like where we can shoehorn it in and optimize things, and capitalism's really good at finding optimizations, you know, and so like prices are neat. Like one thing I came to learn as a Bitcoiner, like coming out of like my socialist like weird like backwards thinking, I didn't realize this, but prices are like an information compression function, and they provide market signals. Their price
Mhm.
signals are, in particular, very powerful at shaping markets and decide and basically solving the economic problem, which is the distribution of scarce goods. And like that like prices are super powerful in that regard, and they collect all this information from the market, informed by different market participants. It's a beautiful thing, and I just like and it fits so well together in your head too. Like from like a like if you ever look into like Hayek or some of the things he's
Yeah.
talked about, and like was it the um,
Isis.
no, the road to serfdom. I'm thinking of.
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, like Australian economic in general is just like fascinating because it's it's it seems like the most logically correct uh, uh, viewpoint, and like the other way to view things is like the Keynesian viewpoint of markets, which essentially hinges upon this thing he calls animal spirits that he just hand waves away as like this is why markets behave the way they do. And like we have bulls, we have bear markets, we have hawkish, dovish. It's like all these animal spirits that we contend with in our markets, and and we
We're shamans
it's
here, right?
yeah, it's so bizarre. It's we just need to measure the markets and measure demand, and like as if like nobody's heard of the broken window fallacy. It hasn't been around for a long time. It's like it's so bizarre, like that we're still running our economy this way, and it makes me think we're still early, not only to Bitcoin, but also like just like the how mature economy can get, because we're oftentimes in civilizations that have gone past with their own money and their own monetary systems, they come to debase the currency, and that has a limited time frame. There's like a limited extent to which you can do this until you rack up a 30-40 trillion dollar debt, right?
Yeah.
And then things start to unwind, and like we'll see how far they can push this. Maybe they can get to 50 trillion before they start to like realize we need to like make major structural changes to the system.
I,
Bitcoiners are kind of like monetary conspiracy theorists, but like also more like
I would say realist.
monetary or preppers. We're almost like
Yeah.
preppers. Like we're preparing for this potential problem that we see, we foresee, because we can just do math, and look at history, and like it's not a difficult conclusion to come to once you do a little bit of research, that like this there's a finite point to where this goes, and once we get to 50 trillion, then it's like if people start jumping ship and onto Bitcoin, then like 50 trillion in debt, I mean, then you're probably going to see within just a few years a jump to 100 trillion debt as people start to like on a more mass scale perform a speculative attack on the currency, kind of like how MicroStrategy has been doing, and a bunch of other companies should be doing but aren't. And so that just tells me how early we are, because like if GameStop isn't going with the strategy, if Coinbase isn't going with that strategy, then that means I get to front run them until they finally do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other bit is that, like, what people don't, most people aren't very aware of how the quote unquote money works. And, like debt backed uh, fiat currency, it has its own trajectory that ends in a bust. It's inevitable, right? Because there's always more debt owed than currency that exists, right? So it's a Ponzi, like basically, right?
Yeah.
But it's a Ponzi that benefits private corporations, right? So, but yeah,
It
it's
is it is a steal from the poor, give to the rich system.
yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put
It's sad. It's sad because like inflation affects the people who can least afford it the
Yeah.
most, and it affects the people who can most afford it the least. Like the people who have have established good relationships with their banks because they have a lot of assets they can borrow against, and the banks know they're good for it. Like those people are in an incredibly privileged position in society. They're essentially quintillionaires, right?
Mhm.
And because they get to benefit from fresh money from the banks, like new money entering the system.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful concept to be a beneficiary of. And but that said, it's not a mystery, like like why the rich get rich. It's not like but what's so funny is that the socialists kind of pretend there is a mystery, like they just you know yeah,
Well, I never
like
really studied the socialism bit very much myself. I came from more of a hard money, background, my libertarian background. So, so that's interesting.
yeah, no, they have all these backwards idea on how the rich get richer, and it's like they're just like, oh, they're just price gouging, it's the like there's just some I've heard some I've never heard more asinine stuff than when I've rolled with leftists, and I used to be on that side, and they have just seemed to like rolled real hard into the deep end. And at this point, I consider myself a fiscal conservative because I do not want to see the inevitable happen sooner than it should. I would like to delay that as long as possible. I'm in the ironically I'm in the uh, uh, who's the current chairman of the Fed? Jerome Powell. I'm in the JPOW stance here, where I'm like, let's get a soft landing. Let's give people as much time as possible to adjust and not have too much disruption. Like otherwise we enter a realm of chaos, and chaos might benefit the preppers, but like at least like conceptually. But I don't know if it'll happen that way, because
Yeah.
human nature can be pretty ugly too.
Well, I have no illusion about even if I have more electronic assets or whatnot, like in a really nasty like civilization breakdown, I know I'm not going to make it, right? So let's just being real. But I guess to your bit, if there's one thing that I think is a conspiracy that's going on right now, it's not well, it's an open conspiracy because these countries have admitted to are working on CBDCs. I think I think the game plan from the owners of some of these central banks is to I think they're largely on course to do this is I think that they're doing a smash and grab on these national currencies. They're going to intentionally, with the knowledge that they will implode, and to foist CBDCs as the replacement on the population, right? So that's again, maybe I'm reading far too much into it, but that's what I think is going on. And to your point, yeah, the more time that people have to prepare before something dramatic like that happens, the better, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like come to Bitcoin kind of thing. Where like we recently saw in Spain, where they want to like get a purpose for cash withdrawals, and if you do not give them a purpose they're happy with, then you could be fined for 150,000 euros.
And
And
24
so
hours advance notice too. right?
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that might just be like the beginning of where they want to go for the rest of the European Union. And there's like not every country in the European Union is like Spain or Germany.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of countries there that do value their freedom. I think Italy is one of those countries where there's a lot of freedom loving individuals. And maybe even Switzerland too. And so those are like the areas I'm more familiar with. And I just know a lot of like people from like into crypto there and into Bitcoin in particular. And it's uh, it, I don't see that kind of thing flying there, like Switzerland, for example, like they kept their franc for one, so that's another thing is kind of interesting to see how like the foreign politics plays out. And then of course, Canada, oh my goodness, like I mean we saw what happened during Trudeau and how he got in hot water with the with trying to crack down on the monetary system there, which did not go well for him, in my opinion.
He,
Might have been one of the reasons why he was held in contempt in his later period.
yeah, I mean, like one of the things I guess I'm more black pill about recently is that we've had a lot of these politicians or political movements get caught performing crimes. Like what he did, like they later found illegal, but there's no consequences, right? Like, sure, he's out of power now, right? But there's no meaningful consequences to him personally. I think that's, I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of neither here nor there, but
Yeah, you really wish there were more consequences. For example, like the Epstein list, right?
yeah, yeah,
And also like the people like what was it? One of the recently there was like a suicide
yeah,
and
uh-huh,
yet another suicide
yeah.
in the Epstein list. And
Well,
she once said, like maybe 6 years ago, that she is not suicidal, and
yeah.
if anything ever happens to her, then it should not be considered a suicide.
To me, the bigger issue isn't really that like releasing the. I think it's important and they should be done releasing the all the Epstein files, but really it's the reason they're not doing it, and I think the reason they're dragging their feet is that they don't want to acknowledge that this was an Intel backed scheme.
Like a psyop.
No, it was not a psyop. Like there was a senator or a representative in the U.S. that admitted in during the when
Oh,
Jeffrey,
right. It was some deep state bullshit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like it's whether it's the CIA or the Mossad or both, he was an intelligence asset that obviously blackmailing all these people for to what end, right? We don't know, right? Again, these are questions that
Classified.
right,
Not read into that one, I
yeah.
guess. Oh no. Oh, the CIA does some weird shit.
Yeah.
I've also gone down the UFO rabbit hole,
Uh-huh.
and that is quite the rabbit hole. Very big if true.
I haven't read any of the new stuff. One thing I read a long time ago was about the Black Bell Project in
Nazi Germany.
yeah, uh-huh. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that blew my mind. I was like, wow, that is crazy. But the other like the two bits that make like lend more credence to that for me is that I was reading this book, and one of the things they pointed out is that, in Patton's big, he broke records in how much ground, how quickly they were making advancements in
Yes.
Europe. And I remember reading about that in like high school, and it did like there were just these random places, but then like lo and behold, the places they were marching to were basically R&D facilities, like these secret, you know, research facilities. So
Yeah,
anyway,
and we'd come to make advancements in transistors and
yeah.
optical fibers and lasers and things like that. And you have to wonder where those ideas actually came from. Like, I mean, I know like human beings are clever, and I don't want to like steal us of our agency, but like rob us of our agency. But like in some ways, like uh, there there's like this like other way to understand these. developments. Like, have you heard of Townsend Brown?
No.
Yeah, he's like he was involved to some degree in the Nazi Bell
Mhm.
project, and later on became an expert on anti-gravity
Oh, no
and
way.
did a lot of anti-gravity research that was then kind of covered up. And there was like like a big march in physics towards understanding gravity, and then for some reason it just got black holed, and
There's
for lack of a better way of putting it.
That's one of the things I'm like most bitter about is we have entire branches
Hmm.
of science that have been, like you said, black holed and kept in the hands of the military industrial complex away from society at large. There was another I remember, gosh, it was around 2000-ish or 2010-ish. I remember there was another branch of emerging science that went poof off the internet. Um, anyway, it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just,
and makes me like, one thing it makes me think is that, like, maybe there is a method to the madness, and like maybe it's too much tech too soon. Like, we could have flying cars by now, but maybe we're not ready for them.
well,
And so,
one thing I learned a long time ago is that they have a program where if you submit a patent application that basically they deem as sensitive or whatever, they can just steal your patent and forbid you from talking about it. You know,
oh, that's
yeah,
unfortunate.
I forget the name of the act, but yeah, that like there's thousands of patents that have been basically seized and classified from the people who submitted them. So yeah,
There's still some patents that get through too. Like, there are
yeah,
patents on anti-gravity that are interesting. Of course, you can patent anything, but it's
yeah.
just it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down for sure. And like, one thing that, like, I didn't grow up in like steeped in UFO
Mhm.
conspiracies, but I had to do a lot of catch up because there was this guy who went in front of Congress, and he basically uh, like alluded to things like non-human intelligence of and especially exotic technology of non-earth origin, which, like, like, they have all these terms that would come out, like, I mean, David Grush, Lua Elizondo, Jake Barber. He's starting to talk about the P3 program, psionics predisposition and potential. Like, there's some kind of like psychic component to these
Mhm.
craft, and then also one thing that really stuck with me after watching a Jake Barber interview was that he once said, um, "There's a profound spiritual component to our existence."
Mhm.
I was like, I wouldn't be surprised, and so that's why I'm like, are quantum computers demonic little hell portals? Like, are these, like,
Well,
what spiritual game is going on here?
my understanding, or my what I'm surmising is a lot of the ancient knowledge around uh, some of this like more secret society stuff around spirituality like coincides with what we're discovering with on the quantum realm. So I think there's a intersection there that we're now discovering with science, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Like, we're starting to, like, experiment with things that, uh,
you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah. I,
funny.
I hear what you, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like, are we really living out like the plot of like Doom, where like we're harvesting hell energy with these quantum computers? Like,
Oh, yeah, or the end times, right?
yeah,
Like the old book in scripture, Revelations, right? Like, the like they say, the image of the Antichrist is an AI.
that yeah, that could be. So yeah, we kind of went in a circuitous route here.
Yeah.
But well, let's talk about. So again, like I'm super enthused about and was looking forward to talking to you because you've written the first BIP Bitcoin improvement proposal for for enabling a quantum secure signature scheme like into Bitcoin without a hard fork, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So when did you start, like, when did you become aware of this, of the quantum computing threat to Bitcoin? And then, like, how did you get motivated, or how did you just tell us how you decided to actually write this?
Well, it's largely a result of like one of the more potent pieces of FUD I've ever like kind of evaluated against Bitcoin. You
Hmm.
know, like the thing is, like people raise concerns about Bitcoin all the time, and like this is not new FUD against Bitcoin. Like in Bitcoin Talk forums, it was first discussed, I think, in 2013,
Okay.
and like so like this has been a piece of FUD that's followed Bitcoin along since practically its inception, like since the second epoch, right? And so
Mhm.
the and now we're in the fifth epoch, and we still haven't had a really good answer to it. And it'll definitely be one of the trials we'll see. Maybe not definitely, actually, I shouldn't say definitely, but it could be one of the trials we'll see in the coming times. And um, well, maybe one of the first real tests of Bitcoin, uh, like in that like in terms of its um, anti fragility,
Hmm.
and so the that's something that like I was hoping people were working on. And so I looked in all the different, like I was starting to get more embedded into the Bitcoin development process because I'm more interested in it now. And I was looking into like Bitcoin BIPs and the Bitcoin mailing list. And people just weren't talking about it. They had talked about it a little bit in the past, maybe quite a bit actually, but their voice just kind of died down. And nobody was talking about it when I was like, people are talking about it now, which is great. But back when I was like back in June of last year, there was nothing, and it really concerned me because I was like, um, if nobody's working on this and I know how to work on this, then am I going to have to do this? You know, and so I just started writing a bit, and I realized like the only good way to solve this problem is with introducing post quantum cryptography that has been well researched and well studied, and lots of eyes have been on it, and it's been around for a while too. One of my favorite post quantum cryptography algorithms is Sphinx.
Hmm.
It was developed by Daniel J. Bernstein. He's the guy who also came up with the Edwards curve, ED25519. And he also came up with encryption specs like Cha-Cha 20 and Poly 1305. And so like if you ever use like Signal or Monero, like these are technologies he's developed. And he also went down the post-quantum cryptography rabbit hole and came up with Sphinx. And it's now one of the leading implementations of post-quantum cryptography. Uh, and I think it's the most trustworthy. But the problem is it's quite expensive to validate and like to verify, to do key generation, to do signing. It's just quite expensive, like from like a computational perspective, and it's also quite large from like a perspective from like how big it can be. But fortunately, there are ways to optimize that using Starks, which are also quantum resistant. And that's something I've been working with some people at Starkware actually like investigate how we can potentially optimize the cryptography introduced in BIP360.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's a fascinating approach. One of the things that I've been, it's a frustration that, like, on the topic is that, like you said, a lot of these new signature schemes are like, they consume more data, right? They're larger signatures than the existing um, schemes. And so there's the reality that I think is beyond time that, and again, like, I don't, I understand, like, not wanting to not wanting to like jump into that debate with your proposal, but it's like at a certain point we're going to need to like raise the the block size in order just to accommodate the same level of TPSs when we finally do start using these post quantum signatures.
Yeah, well, and in Bitcoin there are ways to do that without a hard fork. So in BIP360, we're careful to delineate a new section of the transaction called the attestation,
Hmm.
and it might not even belong in BIP360 to be honest, because it is kind of like a bit of a digression,
Hmm.
but for now it's part of it, and the idea is to basically create a new section of a transaction similar to the witness,
Hmm.
very similar, but like the only thing is that it has much stricter rules than the witness in that it requires a valid signature to be present, a valid public key and signature to be provided, along with when you're spending your coins. And so that way you can't really introduce uh, um, like uh for lack of a better way of putting it, JPEGs,
Yeah.
into the signatures, and so that in some ways, it is JPEG resistant, but to a degree, but because I mean, I also roll with the ordinals people. The ordinals
Mhm.
people are fun, and I inscribed some very early JPEGs
Oh, sweet.
on. Yeah, I have I had several sub 1Ks that I
Hmm.
sold, but that said, it was a good time, and uh the as much as I like JPEGs and Bitcoin, I'm an inscriber and scripter, and not really into fixing the filters. To be honest, I think that the policy should be relaxed actually, because they're not really a real part of consensus, and you can only rely on consensus. You cannot rely on relay policy, in my
Yeah.
opinion, to protect Bitcoin from these kind of things. And also, it's uh, let's see. Yeah, I'm regardless. Like the the ordinals people on the other hand, though, like from people I talk to, like they don't want to necessarily see the ordinal supply expanded or increased, or like the size like cheapened, like the kind of things. So
Okay.
even ordinals people aren't really even on the train of like, if we were to increase a discount, should we put more JPEGs in there? I mean, obviously people will try and maybe they will be successful to some degree, but like there can also be does rules built into consensus that can help mitigate against that to some degree. It's just like nothing will ever fully protect against things like steganography, but like we can do our best to try to limit that. And regardless, if we do like so like right now we have a 4x discount for things put in the witness, which is a good start, and like we wouldn't see, like I mean we would certainly see a reduction in TPS, but like 4x is actually pretty decent. If we were to double that or quadruple that, that would also get us even further. That said, there's also the possibility that we just implement a Stark spacer approach towards a block-wide cross-transaction
Uh-huh.
compression algorithm that we call BitZip,
Uh-huh.
BITZIP, and that's something I've been like just kind of like shepherding along the development of,
Mhm.
like at least in the early stages, and I'm looking forward to more coming out on that next year. But like the idea of scaling in Bitcoin, scaling, especially post-quantum cryptography, I'm not too worried about.
Okay.
I think the thing I'm more worried about is just having it there to begin with,
Yeah.
because if so long as it's like if we don't have it there, then people won't have a safe place for their coins. And in particular, not just people, but like exchanges, big exchanges like Kraken and Coinbase and Binance. They all have cold wallets that have public keys that are exposed. And that's very concerning. And I would hope to shore that up. There's also a lot of big miners, like and just like holders like Sailor, MicroStrategy, like ETFs. These are all like, like even especially BlackRock right now is very concerned about this and always kind of has been ahead of the curve on the quantum stuff. And I've been in contact with them as well, just to like, see like they ask a bunch of really good questions, and they've definitely been like paying attention to this issue in a way that I have a massive respect for. And it's just like these investors, they have access to a lot of information, and as they should, because they're capital allocators, right? And so if they're allocating capital in Bitcoin, they better feel good about their investment. And if it's not using post quantum cryptography, they should probably be very concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, my big concern, like, first is that we have it there. Like, we can, if we have it in place, we can, like, adding block size is doable, right? But like you said, having the time and the technology there to park assets is of utmost importance. One thing I thought we'd bring up is, I saw, what was it, last year, that Vitalik had their interim solution to the quantum computing problem was essentially wait till everything breaks and then somehow
Roll
figure.
back,
Yeah, then we'll pause
hard
the
fork, and
chain.
roll back.
Yeah,
Yep.
roll back and fig like one of the things that I think is comical is, like, is when you crack a private key, or when you derive a private key from a public key or what have you, like, it's a legitimate transaction. Like, there's no magic, like, neon sign that says this is this was an exploit, right? So I
So how could they detect that? Yeah,
exactly,
that's
it's like, what are you even talking about? That is the most asinine thing in the world. And I mean,
and it gets worse because the solution you described using BIP32 secrets and a stark proof against them to that would then need to be aggregated on a block wide scaling, I'm sure, which is also harder to do at the block time that Ethereum has, because it's just so much shorter than Bitcoin's. And also, you get like kind of fewer transactions to aggregate in some ways because of a couple different reasons, but mostly just because like block time is faster, the blocks are smaller, and there's just like, um it's not like I mean, like, of course, of the Ethereum compatible chains, Ethereum is kind of considered the slowest, which is also hilarious to me because, like, okay, well, maybe it will have a chance compared to, Solana, which, I don't know. I mean, Solana also has some PQC things I think people have been working towards, but, like, will Avalanche be able to? Will Phantom, like these, like, really low block time chains, like, will they be able to adjust? It's hard to know. It's because there's a time needed to adjust for consensus, and then like verification, like we I mean, BLS in some ways is a taste of like how slow things could be, but like it could be even worse. And so I'm not optimistic for some of the other parts of the ecosystem. Bitcoin gives us a lot of wiggle room to and a lot of like just if, in some ways like freedom to establish solutions in the problem space that ideally are more optimal for Bitcoiners because of that lengthy block time of 10 minutes.
yeah, it's
And the thing about like the BIP32 approach that Vitalik proposes, it's it could just break a ton of shit because, like, for example, like basically that proposal, the way it works is if your keys are generated from a mnemonic seed, like a 12 or 24 mnemonic seed, word mnemonic seed, that's great. That's cool. You're good. But if you do ever just come up with a key that you randomly generated on some machine, if you're using
Hmm.
an HSM, if you're using just like specialized smart contract
Hmm.
technology you built, or if you're just an older ETH guy like me who has a key that was generated first in a JSON file,
Yeah, yeah,
then
exactly. Hmm.
like you're fucked. You're fucked out of that. And so
Jeez, I didn't even think about
yeah,
that.
yeah, no, it literally like you have to break that in order to protect Ethereum. And so
It was
yeah,
it was the almost, to me, the thing that blew me away is, one, like we were talking about, a lot of the technical aspects are hilariously bad, but also like the almost the way it was dismissed in like a hand waving like tone is like what? That's how serious you're taking this, is like what?
yeah. It's like acting like it's not a big problem is not going to be a plan. It's not a plan.
It's not a plan. Like I didn't even think about the like you said, the keys where you don't have the mnemonic that could have been used to determine that, right? So
Yeah,
I mean, there's still tons of like I know some other
there's
old.
there's
I
there's
still
no
have
way
some
to
wallets too that are, like, they don't have anything in them,
yeah
but I know, I still have some old JSON wallets from back in the day, and I know other people that do too, right? Some people
yeah.
exclusively like never change that stuff.
Like for example, ENS. I mean, obviously ENS is terrible for privacy, and a lot of people like use it for some reason in bad ways. But like, I have to wonder, like like how broken is ENS going to be after that?
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Because like especially if you're using it to like if you're putting in your ENS for a payment,
Yeah.
like for it to grab the key and that sort of thing, like that could be. I mean, like either they're going to break how that works on the Ethereum side, or quantum computers will break how that works, and so it like we're entering kind of like a bit of a wild west, and like what we should do. And I just I'm not particularly bullish on how Ethereum's going to handle this. And so that's one reason. Like I mean, I know I'm an unapologetic Bitcoin maxi, but that said, I also have a background in shitcoinery, and so I totally like sympathize and empathize and have friends in that space, and uh, like want things to be better. And the thing is, like a lot of people from the space who still have that compunction that Bitcoin is a boomer coin. There's nothing exciting happening on Bitcoin, and that couldn't be further from the truth, in my opinion. There's so many cool things happening on Bitcoin right now. So many interesting discussions. Yeah, there's a bunch of toxic maxis as well, but like they, like their impact on is um, it's there. It's certainly there. It's just like there's also a contingent of people who aren't like that, and I highly recommend like people from your communities like come to Bitcoin. There's fun stuff to be had. There's good
I,
stuff.
I
There's
do think
you don't have to
there's
be a degen to appreciate this stuff.
yeah, I do think that I think a lot of people got jaded and moved away from Bitcoin because they basically stifled innovation for a long time. That said, I do think there's some things that are being talked about that, if they come to fruition, would be amazing. Like
Yeah,
I
well,
was
like I also might want to dispute that narrative just a little bit because, like in the block size wars in 2017, it was kind of decided that innovation wouldn't come from layer one.
right.
Like it would come in layers. It would come in layers above layer one, and so like the L2s that are coming into play now. One of them I'm really bullish on is RGB because it's like a full-fledged
Mhm.
smart contract system built on top of UTXOs, and like that's one I've always been like really following ever through all throughout my Bitcoin career is RGB, and it's largely why I became a Bitcoin maxi. I was like, oh, we can just build all this in layers. And so I wouldn't say that technology development has been stifled so much as like deliberately uh, separated. Like there's a separation of concerns, kind of like how in Ethereum there's like a separation between the execution layer and uh, the consensus layer, right? And
Mhm.
so the like there's it's kind of like that, you know, and so
Well,
it's just a bit more ad hoc. There's no roadmap, you know,
well,
I mean that,
yeah, one of the
so
reasons that
it
I had that perspective is that for years the mantra was that Lightning's going to be ready in 18 months and mass adoption is going to be on Lightning and blah blah blah. Well, I looked up and I read the Lightning white paper from back in the day, and it was like, hey, if this is going to work at a global scale, it's going to need at a minimum 16 megabyte blocks. Why are we fighting about like 1 megabyte blocks then if just to have the capacity to for these solutions is going to require, you know, 16 meg blocks, right? So I don't know.
yeah, maybe it might not. We'll see.
Well, that
It's
was what was written in their white paper
no,
is that.
I get it. I get it. I know I've seen that too. It's just like I mean, like with the tools they had available at that time, that was probably like something to consider. But like again, I'm very bullish on potentially like adding to the consensus level,
Mhm.
not necessarily as an opcode, but like to just like how blocks are handled.
Okay.
I think that like adding Starks to Bitcoin could be a huge benefit, and it'd actually be somewhat practical.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the efforts that were going on there. That makes a ton of sense. Like you were saying, even to compress signatures and even entire blocks of signatures too, right? I mean that.
Yeah, like well, just you can have like signature pre-aggregation, and then you can have it aggregated inside the block, and it's only on the block level, but that said, that's pretty good, and especially if you're collecting transactions over a period of 10 minutes on average, and uh, um, yeah, I don't know. I think oh, and some of the TPS figures are kind of eye-catching as well.
Mhm.
Ethan computed them to
That's
be
what I was going to
something
ask.
like
Yeah, is what does that translate to in compression or TPS?
something like 80. It's either 80 or 500 depending on a number of different factors, but like somewhere between 80 and 500 TPS
Wow, that's a pretty big
on
bump.
layer one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like an order of magnitude to two. Yeah, and that's also including post-quantum cryptography. So
Oh, no way. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, hey, if we again if we bump it up to like imagine if we bump it up to 4 8 megs at the same time, we'll have I mean, anyway, that sounds a lot more positive than I wasn't aware of that. So
yeah,
that's cool.
we're definitely having these discussions,
Mhm.
and like I would recommend if anybody's interested, just like listening to this, join the Telegram group that we have posted. Join link on surmount.systems. It's surmount.systems. The name of the Telegram group is Make Bitcoin Quantum Resistant, and MBQR, and we have some lively chats there every now and then, and we should have more news there soon. Also, I'm currently shaping my Substack to be a bit more reflective of this as well. We're going to be posting some articles on that. That's CryptoQuick at cryptoquick.substack.com. So yeah, definitely, and also there's the BIP360, BIP360.org. I'm allow me to. I hope I'm allowed to show
Oh
all
yeah,
this,
go
but
for it. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean, this is really like at the end of the day, I really want to highlight the work that you're doing. This is one of the reasons I brought you on. So yeah, go for it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, and we also have some donation links on Surmount.systems, Bolt 12, and Silent Payments. I really like Bolt 12 payments. Actually, I have a substantial amount of inbound liquidity from async for people to utilize. So feel free to see however big a donation you want to make through Lightning, and that's fun. And then also. Silent payments, I'm bullish on to some degree. I know they use ECDX, so they're not perfectly quantum resistant, but at least it protects against address reuse, which is the thing I'm most concerned about when I'm talking about quantum resistance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, again, I wanted to highlight the work you're doing. And so again, that's positive that we have I guess the like I wasn't aware of the what you mentioned RGB.
Hmm.
The work that I was familiar with or I had read glanced at briefly is they have like the drive chains and space chains that would
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, those didn't really quite gain much adoption, but spider chains. I'm trying to remember the company working on that. Botanics. They're doing some interesting things with that. There's, I think, a company called Spark also that's working on some really interesting things. BitcoinLayers.org,
Okay.
developed by some good friends of mine, Red and a few others, Yanis and they all have been were like kind of keeping track of all the different Bitcoin development activities, and it's very exciting just to see all the different activity happening all in one place.
Well, that's a great resource. I'll definitely check it out because one of the things that's frustrating or hard for someone that like I'm not as deeply connected as you are into the development and all these different it's just like when you try and search this out, it's just like there's no it's just like you're going into the void and like I don't know, it's hard to like even without
Yeah,
a resource like that, it's just you're just kind
yeah.
of out there nowhere,
You can't just go to like Bitcoin.com and look up the roadmap
Yeah.
and and the
What
ecosystem.
one of my funny memories is was back in like I probably 2017 or 2018. I wanted to check on when Ethereum was going to go proof of stake because I knew that was like in their white paper and I knew they were developed like working on it. And going to their websites and trying to like it was nonsensical. Like all they had up there were these names like plasma and all this other stuff, but there was
Mhm.
actually nothing human readable for someone who um like wasn't actively developing the platform itself. It was amazing. I was like, what the hell is going
It's
on here? So
like I mean it's a broad problem like throughout the ecosystem, just documentation and being able
yeah.
to explain how some of these these things work and happen. Like obviously like the merge and the proof by proof by construction,
Mhm.
like kind of stuff they're working on, like um, was pretty opaque. And like I even recently was like getting really annoyed by the fact that people were calling Bitcoin transaction fees gas fees. And like I looked up on their website like what the fuck is gas, like what is that? And it turns out it's just a unit of computation, and that is so ambiguous
Well,
because
really,
like
really,
how do you measure computation in that way? Is it like
well,
through instructions, counting
that's
instruction,
not
that kind
really
of
what
thing?
it
And like
was. That like my understanding of it is that they were, Ethereum did an ICO and they had lawyers that were basically the workaround to make it legal in their understanding at the time is instead of selling a token as a security,
the
the way
utility
they
token.
yeah, they were saying that it's a utility token and the gas and you're paying for the computation in terms of gas. So that's what we're selling you. It's not a token to actually, have any value. Wink, wink. That's my understanding.
The gas that powers digital oil,
Yeah.
and the world computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I remember all those old talking points. It's kind of fun, but Yeah, it's still like the one thing I just want to leave, hopefully your audience with is
Yeah.
just well I it's not relevant to Bitcoin quantum computing. It's just like this thing I it really annoys me every time I hear it is when people call Bitcoin fees transact or gas fees because they're just transaction fees, and the reason why is because gas is a unit of computation, and Bitcoin doesn't charge based on units of computation.
Surprised.
There are limits to like sig ops, but like that's about the most like signature verification operations. But the real the real thing that it charges by is for bytes.
Hmm.
And technically, after SegWit, we have virtual bytes, and those are a bit more interesting and difficult to calculate. But regardless, there is like bytes with a discount. Like is basically how Bitcoin like fees are calculated, and that's just like one thing I want to like people to be aware of. It's not gas on Bitcoin. That said, there are technically EVM compatible chains,
Hmm.
side chains like Counterparty, and also the one that I'm working on is Andro. That's like my day job is to work on side chains for Bitcoin, and the Andro sidechain platform has a EVM compatible sidechain called Alice, and it ALYS, and it prices gas in Bitcoin satoshis,
Hmm.
which kind of muddies the water a little bit because you're
Yeah.
literally paying the gas and sats. So I get the perspective to some degree, but like still there is a big distinction, especially when you're working on layer one.
Yeah, I guess one other thing I wanted to ask you is in terms of like how the prospects for the adoption of BIP360 are going, and how do you like this is something that I never really got into the weeds in terms of like following a particular bit before. So like how do you see this is going, and like what kind of, if this does get accepted, what do you kind of time frame are you expecting?
It's coming along. I just need to put more work into coordinating with Ethan Heilman. He's my co-author,
Okay.
and it's it's things are going to come together. It's just taking a little bit more time. One of the things that's taking time is just like the disruption of my schedule by going to conferences.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's also important to do just to get the word out and get people involved, and there's a message, and we want if there's one message I want people to take away from BIP360 is that we are prepared. Like there's a plan. Be prepared, not scared. That's our motto.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, well that was the other thing I just wanted to get your impression on how the process was working, and if you were optimistic that, it's feasible.
Oh, I'm very optimistic about this, very bullish. Like it's like okay, so yeah, maybe we haven't performed a consensus upgrade in 4 or 5 years now, but the maybe more like 3 to 4. It's not so bad, and but it has been multiple years since we've upgraded the chain, and that's perfectly fine for Bitcoin to do. People aren't quite sure how to do it again, but I think because Bitcoin BIP360 is a security upgrade
Hmm.
to Bitcoin, it's not just like adding new functionality. It's upgrading its security. Then I think it puts it in a different class of proposals that might be considered more urgent, depending
Yeah.
on how things shake out extrinsically.
Hmm.
So to the discussion. So, and what I'm alluding to basically is just as as the as quantum computing develops, as we were talking about before, these different advancements, what we see are like incremental improvements over time, like a long series of them, then like once we see that, then we should start being more prepared. And like the fact that BIP360 exists, that we have, you know, even like a technology right now that I've been working on to help implement it. Like the fact that we're getting this ball rolling, we have, you know, actual concrete code for it. Um, that's uh, that's better than starting at zero, and like having these discussions is like even just like these public discussions, getting in people's minds and getting mind share and buy-in and that sort of thing. Like I'm just I'm very optimistic. I and also I hope we have as much time as we can get. You know, like hopefully we have a lot of time and to come up with the best solution. BIP360 isn't perfect; it's just a stepping stone. That's because post-quantum cryptography is not ideal for Bitcoin right now, and it'll probably take a lot of time to come up with an ideal solution that is fully vetted. And so I'm just coming with the best that we have right now. And the best that we have right now is kind of like the doomsday prepper plan, and that's what we need for Bitcoin for people like BlackRock, like at BlackRock, to be satisfied, like to have a satisfying argument for putting a lot more money into Bitcoin than they already have. Because like you have to wonder how much like this FUD has held from Bitcoin, any kind of capital, like additional capital going into it, and that's in some ways like BIP360 is the thing that unlocks and hopefully just it is the counter argument to the FUD. Like every other piece of FUD I've heard against Bitcoin, like oh, it uses too much energy. Well, you know, like that has good answers. You know, like it just incentivizes us to produce more energy than we need. There are clean ways to produce that energy. It's proof of work is the most secure thing that we have, even far more so than proof of stake. And so it's just like it's one of those things that, like, you know, there's a lot of other FUD against Bitcoin that I've heard. I've heard pretty much. I like to think I've heard every argument. The quantum FUD, I think, is the most uh, sticky, the most, you know, like impactful potentially, especially like with its being an existential threat and not necessarily like a structural risk, but like an existential risk, right? It's so scaling, you know, like is a structural risk, right? And so like, and we're coming up with decent solutions for scaling. We're continuing to do that, and scaling is important, but we also need to consider this existential risk, and especially as we're building these solutions. And a lot of these solutions are not post-quantum cryptography enabled. They are not quantum resistant or quantum secure. They use Taproot, and
Yeah,
Taproot
the worst.
it's that really sucks, you know, like
It is.
like I mean what sucks is like Taproot's so cool, and it would give us all these privacy improvements, and it fits together so well, and there's a lot of great tools out there using Taproot now, and like there's these Frost multisigs that are really cool and work really well, but uh all Taproot addresses are public keys,
Yeah.
and for better or worse, and the problem is when you send funds to a Taproot address, you're revealing a public key that potentially someone could use to take those funds. I hope that people like understand that and push, you know, their devs to like, you know, maybe reach for maybe older technologies like pay-to-witness script hash, where they have a script for the like for multi-sig descriptors, like that. Like the old school way of doing it is perfectly fine, at least against long exposure attacks. There are, of course, the potential for short exposure attacks, but we're nowhere near that yet. So, avoiding Taproot, I think, is like the most actionable step any participant in the Bitcoin system
Yeah.
could take in terms of securing their long-term stack. That said, A lot of fun things are also in Taproot, like inscriptions, and so and of course, like custodying your inscriptions. Like for example, I'll be honest, I custody my inscriptions in Taproot, but that's just for convenience and also because I don't really see them as terribly valuable. But maybe that's short sighted, but it's just I wouldn't be like super devastated if those were like swept somehow, and they probably won't be because they're all on dust output. So it's like like it's not even like it looks like on chain. They don't look like anything particularly special. So yeah,
I'm a big counterparty collector, and one of the things that
yeah,
you know
that's great.
using
Counterparty's
counterparty though
great.
is, I mean, it's super cool, but this is one of the areas where we need some quantum resistant signature schemes. So because again, if you're using counterparty, you're doing transactions, so you're exposing, it's you know it's not great until we have like you said. The other nice thing about your proposal and how this works is that this is voluntary. So
Yes.
once this is merged in, not everyone has to pay higher fees and use these to pay for transactions using the signature scheme. You can keep using the legacy ones, like it's no
Yeah,
one's
yeah,
holding it.
especially if not using high dollar amounts,
Yeah.
it's all up to everybody's individual responsibility to
Mhm.
make that decision.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's just the other thing I want to throw out there is that, the way that you wrote this BIP, it's fully backwards compatible, right? So,
Exactly,
but yeah,
exactly. Soft work.
is there anything else you wanted to discuss or bring up? I know we kind of went here, there, and around the world.
Oh man, no, this is a really good discussion. I'm glad you asked really great questions, and I think your listeners will get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, I'll get the links from you, and I'll attach those to the description for this interview. But yeah, I certainly appreciate your time. This is again really fascinating discussion, and I learned a lot. So yeah, I certainly appreciate your time.
All right, thank you very much.